There's a phenomenon in the dog world known as resource guarding, or at least this is what people have labeled it. I'm not sure where this came from. Now, I do not agree with this label because to me it's a symptom of a lack of understanding of what this thing really is. And I'm in a Facebook group dedicated to reactivity and aggressive dogs, and I often see this posted as a question that's an issue people are dealing with, and it's a very common issue, unfortunately. And of course, within any of these posts, you're going to get varying opinions, ideas, strategies. Some people identify with the force-free or positive-only crowd, and other people come from what you would say, the balanced community. But what you end up with is a confusing mess. So what's a person supposed to do? And it's no surprise to me because both the positive reinforcement community and the balanced community both have a lack of understanding of what this really is, and I think both sides get it completely wrong. There's a common narrative, though, I see between the two, and that's they seem to think that this is rooted in emotion, and that we should allow the dogs to do this because they have the right to do it. The force-free or positive reinforcement people would tell you it's out of fear, and the balanced folks, or at least some of them, not all of them, might lead you to believe that this is instinctual and it's normal, and we should allow them to express themselves because why would I want to suppress their emotions? But what's interesting enough is I don't hear either side ever mention that dirty word dominance. So I'm going to show you an example of what somebody from the force-free or positive reinforcement only community believes this is, and then their approach to handling it. And then I'm going to show you an example of somebody from the balanced community, what their take is on it and how they approach these things, and how both of these approaches are rooted in the concept of training, which I take issue with. And then I'm going to show you what David Mech, the individual who say the positive reinforcement people say his alpha theory has been debunked, I'm going to show you what he's got to say before I show you some examples of what resource guarding, what they like to call resource guarding, really is. Now, in this video, I'm not here to present solutions. This is to give you an understanding of what this thing actually is, so you can see it for what it is, and then begin to move forward in the correct way.
Really need to clear up some frequent misunderstandings about resource guarding. Dogs are fearful that they're going to lose something, and then we punish them for reacting that way, probably taking the item away too. Haven't we validated their fear? How is that addressing the dog's underlying emotion? That's what we need to ask ourselves if we're trying to be intellectually honest about this. It's true that punishing a dog might stop an outburst in that moment because your dog is suppressing their instinctive reaction to avoid punishment, but it's not tackling the root of the problem, which is the dog's desire to defend what they feel is theirs. Punishing dogs who are resource guarding can actually form a link between the object that they're guarding and the punishment that they are receiving, which can actually amplify their guarding behavior over time.
How I stopped resource guarding. I just played one game that my trainer taught me that has 4 levels, and after a few days, she went from growling at me to bringing her most prized possessions to me. Here, I'll show you what we did. Just wait until the end. So step 1, I just tossed treats towards her for a few days. Level 2, I tossed treats as I walked by for a few more days.
Can I have it?
This is when we practice the trade it out cue. Now this one's my favorite.
Can I have it?
We trade it out like always, but then we make it better before giving back.
Then I'll take it, put some treats on top. Here you go. And we're gonna make it better.
Now let's put it to the test and see if it worked.
This is a chew she really loves. Go get it. And we'll see what she does. If she doesn't want me near it, she's gonna go sit somewhere else. If she trusts me not to take it from her, she's gonna come sit near me, just like this. And I know she's gonna do this because we've practiced this. Now, if you'll note, she has her back towards me, so this is communicating that, hey, I wanna be near you. I trust you're not gonna take my chew away from me. But I still want to enjoy it without being interrupted. And she has absolutely every right to communicate that. So she's chewing that. I'm gonna come sit on the couch. And if she trusts that I'm not going to take it from her, she's gonna bring it right to me like this. And this is because we're working on relationship. I've got Bentley here too, this is my senior lab. But this is how we work on relationship. There is no pressure. We have mutual respect. And the only reason I would take it away from her is if there was like a safety or health concern. A rule in my house is if it's in my puppy's mouth, it stays in my puppy's mouth, unless it's dangerous, obviously.
No dog should ever be allowed to growl around its food, should never show any aggression to anyone around its food whatsoever. And honestly, I couldn't think of anything more ridiculous. Dogs are animals. Guarding our food is one of the most primal things that any of us will ever do. Stick your hand in my plate and we'll see how things go. I wouldn't expect a dog to like it either. And I don't expect my dogs to suppress their feelings. What I want to do right now, let's take a look at this video of Indy, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it.
Out. Yes.
Okay, so a little bit of food aggression there. What we also saw was respect, control, a very well-trained dog that trusts me. I trust her. I would not do that with a dog that I didn't trust. Honestly, I don't do that with her either. What I did to her in that video is rude. Nobody should ever do that to their dog. You're an asshole if you do that to your dog. I did that for the purposes of this video to show that what we're seeing there is a dog's emotion. I don't get to choose how she feels about me sticking my hands in her food. She hates it. She doesn't like having anybody around her when she eats. She doesn't like having dogs around her when she eats. She doesn't like having people around her when she eats. So, what's the solution? She eats alone. What I'm arguing for is when your dog doesn't want to be bothered while it's eating, don't bother your dog while it's eating. Just let it eat. The fact that your dog growls at you when food is around does not translate into that dog attacking you over a piece of dropped food. It does not translate. I should say, it doesn't translate directly. Are there dogs that will growl at you over food and then attack you over dropped food? Yes. Yes, of course. But one does not equal the other. Can you have a dog that will growl at you when you go near its food and then be completely fine with you taking a bone or a stick or a toy or a ball out of its mouth at a later point in time? Absolutely. You just saw that dog. That's Indy. Growling is an expression of the dog's emotion, and we don't get to choose how a dog feels in any given moment. If that dog is feeling upset, it's going to growl. If you teach that dog not to growl, the next step is it's going to go straight to biting without giving you a warning. So you don't want to teach the dog not to growl when it's upset. That growling is what the dog is genetically programmed to do, to tell you to go away. You saw in the video, a dog can growl at you and still respect you. Indy very much respects me. We know that by the fact that she outed her block of food when I asked her to let me take it and then gave it back to me. Now, she told me how she felt about that. There are dogs out there that you will not train to be okay with you sticking your hand in their food. And why should they be okay with it? This is what we need to ask ourselves, right? Why should the dog be okay with it? Why don't you have the respect for your dog to leave it the fuck alone when it's eating?
Yeah, they misunderstood. I didn't say there was no such thing as dominance.
Right.
But a lot of the dog people thought that's what I was saying.
The term alpha isn't really accurate when describing most of the leaders of wolf packs because the term implies that the wolves fought and competed strongly to get to the top of the pack. In actuality, the way they get there is merely by mating with a member of the opposite sex, producing a bunch of offspring, which are the rest of the pack then, and becoming the natural leaders that way, just like with a pair of humans producing a family. Instead of using the term alpha for a wolf, instead of saying alpha male or alpha female, scientists now tend to call wolves like that the breeding male and the breeding female. And or you can call them the mother wolf and the father wolf. There's really nothing wrong with that. Those are much better and more accurate terms than the term alpha. Actually, I'm very much to blame for the term alpha being used with wolves. I published a book in 1970 that now has over 110,000 copies in circulation, and in that I labeled the top wolf in the pack the alpha. And I did that because at that time that's all that science knew. But we've learned a lot. That book was published in 1970, and in the 35 years since that time, we've learned an awful lot. One of the things we've learned is that the term alpha is really incorrect when applied to most wolf pack leaders. It's appropriate to use the term alpha in an artificial pack where you might put many wolves from different assemblages together, unrelated wolves and that kind of thing. Then they would form a pecking order or a dominance hierarchy. And you could call the top animal at that point the alpha, but that rarely happens in the wild, if ever. And so that would be one case where you could use it. Another case is where you have what we call a complex pack, or a pack with multiple breeders. In Yellowstone, for example, there have been some packs that have had as many as 3 breeding females, and in that case you can call the top-ranking female, who would usually be the mother, you can call that animal the alpha female. But looked at in the perspective of wolf packs in general around the world and all, that rarely happens.
The dominant wolf in the pack is he just mated with another wolf, and they had offspring, and so they were automatically, just like human parents,
Right.
They were dominant to the rest of the pack, but that didn't mean they fought to get to the top or anything. They just mated and produced their own pups. And so that's when I published the paper indicating that, use of the term alpha was pretty outdated and we should change that.
And this kind of open a whole big can of worms, even in the whole society. Forget about the animal kingdom, but really even in social sciences, that whole idea of dominance, and it became a very, very controversial, and everybody's trying to kind of pull the rug their way. And as a dog trainer, one of the big problems for us, because of that statement that you did, and I know that you tried to retract it so many times, and not to retract it, but to explain exactly what you mean, because it really was taken out of context to where certain groups of even researchers and dog trainers and people as a group started to think.
They misunderstood. I didn't say there was no such thing as dominance.
Right.
But a lot of the dog people thought that's what I was saying.
So when we're talking about a dominance hierarchy, does size matter? The answer is no. It's a mentality. Chris, back. Back. It's Goose's time to eat. Right? Just like that. Size does not matter when we're talking about dominance. Even when Grizz comes here, now Grizz is, of course, younger. And age isn't always a determinant of how mentally strong a dog is, but Grizz is very familiar with Goose. And so he understands that when he comes here, she is above him. And Grizz is like 3 times her size. So for those of you that don't believe dogs operate within a social hierarchy, a dominance hierarchy, and that you need to be at the top of that, this would be a good example of the demonstration of that hierarchy. See, now I can get near Goose's food. She's not going to have a problem with that. But if Marty gets near her food, it's a serious problem. I'm at the top of that hierarchy. He's at the bottom. She's first in command. But it's all about strength of personality. Now, of course, Marty's the youngest, so naturally, even though he's a pretty headstrong guy, naturally, he's just not there. But you see the space he's giving her? Now watch, if he attempts to get near her food, watch what happens. Yes, you see, he's giving her space. He doesn't want to get near because he knows what will happen. He's trying to show her respect. But I gotta help her out. See the distance he's given her? Because he's already been through it. She's already made it very clear to him that getting near her while she eats is a bad idea. Right? You see that? That's all she had to do. That's all she had to do. Now, once she's done, he's, there's no issue with him going over and trying to pick up scraps. Now, when a dog truly understands that you control the food and they do not, this is what it will look like. And by the way, do not feed your dogs this dried shit. Okay, it's terrible for them. Not my dog, not my food. Anyway, you see how his attention's on me, not the food. You should be able to walk away from this bowl. Now, I would go outside, but he'll freak out if I go outside. He's a work in progress. But you should be able to walk out the front door and him not touch the food. So for this exercise, I'll just walk away from the bowl. And he should not touch that food. Because he respects that it's not his. Wait. One thing I love to do when going through these particular things with dogs is upping the ante. So what if I took some delicious pizza and put it on the ground and then told him to back off the pizza, right? And then I did the same thing I did with his bowl of food. Would he attack the pizza? Or would he respect that it's mine? What do you think? Think he'll eat it? The answer is no. That is what respect looks like. Man, that pizza smells good. But if they understand it's mine, will either one of them try to eat it if I walk away? I'm sure you've seen my other videos where I do this, but it's usually one dog. Now let's see if I can do it with two. When dogs understand who controls what, they will not challenge you over food. They will not try to take the food from you. They will not disrespect you for food. They will not demand the food from you. And they sure as hell won't try to eat it when you walk away. Respect is earned, not given. So this is how I engage in a power struggle with an insecure dog who engages in what is known as resource guarding. Now this dog is interesting because she was actually homeless and this family took her in. And based on what I could assess from this dog, my best guess is that she simply had to fight for whatever she got in the situation that she was in, because she's actually a pretty submissive girl. And this appears to be more of a learned behavior rather than a natural inclination for her to want to control things. So you'll see the more that I assert this boundary and claim the food as mine, she begins to understand what it is that's happening. And there's a moment where she becomes fearful and is shaking, but she begins to open up and relax a little bit the more control I take. And you'll see that the more we go through this process, the less she wants to engage in this intense mouthing to get her way. Here, and then now she finally sits. I take more ground. She finally gives in and lays down. I'm able to back away. She then gives me her attention, which is her signal to me that she no longer wishes to challenge me, and then I can give her the food that she has now earned. This is a great little demonstration as to why breed is not nearly as important as people want to convince you that it is. All of these dogs understand the message that I'm sending to them, which is why once I claim the food, I'm able to walk out the front door and none of them touch it. A canine's social hardwiring comes first above everything. Breed is a secondary thing that you must look at when dealing with behavior problems. All behavioral problems must be addressed at a social level. There are 4 dogs in this home, 2 of which are the same breed, 3 breeds total, and 2 of them are mutts. Yet all of the dogs respond to me the same way, because I'm claiming the food in a way that any dog would do. This is instinctual to them. This makes sense to them. And when you approach things from a social understanding of canines, you can work through things like resource guarding very quickly. I should be able to walk away. I should be able to walk out the front door and then not touch any of that.
I'm ready.
You ready?